Welcome to Global Investment Voice, your premier podcast for diving deep into the world of investment migration. Are you dreaming of a second or third passport? Then join us as we traverse the globe, exploring the ins and outs of the US EB-5 immigrant investor visa, uncover the secrets of golden visas, and delve into the many residency and citizenship by investment programs. Each episode is packed with exclusive insights from top industry experts. Whether you're an investor, developer, or a visionary entrepreneur, we're here to guide you through the complexities of global investment migration. And who better to navigate this journey with than your hosts, the dynamic legal duo of this industry, Mona Shah and Rebecca Singh. Plus, hear directly from a lineup of global investment migration leaders. So, buckle up and tune in to Global Investment Voice, where your global investment journey begins and expands.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year to you, Rebecca.
Oh, same to you, Mona, and to all our listeners out there.
Well, we always start with an episode at the beginning of the year when we look back for a few minutes and then we look forward. And I have to say, we always, for the last 10 years, have been very optimistic in our outlook. But this year, I feel like substituting the opto for realistic.
No, I think you're right, Mona. I mean, look at this. We're going into year 2 with Trump. It feels like a decade. Yeah, we've only finished year 1 and, we've seen the return of his, immigration policies.
I think we can really say that 2025 was a year of disruption as regards to EB-5, as regards to immigration. And EB-5, we started by thinking would be immune. It wasn't, was it, Rebecca?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. But what did we see? Very, very briefly. I know people don't want to be reminded, but in 2025, what did we see? A return of Trump-era immigration policies, travel bans, border security.
Yes, I think that has been awful for some of our clients. A lot of even just people coming in on B1, B2 visas, visitors. So we are seeing enhanced vetting procedures for all our clients.
Well, have seen it for a while now. But in addition to all of that, we saw an adjudication crisis with the cases. With regards to EB-5, I-956, we've been seeing more problems. We have seen bottlenecks because the approval process has become painfully slow.
Oh gosh, I know. And I can't tell you how many times clients, when the new act came in and you have priority processing and at this point, what is priority?
I know. I do feel it did cause an investor caution and at an all-time high, really, because there was a psychological impact. There was a panic within the whole immigration community. And we're seeing it even today. People are not patient anymore. They're not nice. They're upset. They're angry. They want things done quickly. There's investor confidence has been shaken as well because of some of the denials that we've seen.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the problem. We're seeing high denial rates. At the same time, USCIS has upped their scrutiny on these cases. And I don't know if some of it's right, is some of it wrong. It's just unprecedented.
And immigration attorneys are overwhelmed without a doubt, all of us, no matter what you do, whether or not you're doing EOIR and court cases or whether you're doing business immigration or investment. The US immigration attorney has really suffered in 2025.
Well, like you said, Mona, a lot of it's the processing timeline. So it doesn't matter if it's EB-5, it's an H-1B visa. We're seeing so much delays in processing, but we're also seeing, like you said, the issues of coming back in or even getting another application renewed. For instance, the H-1B. Aren't we seeing a lot of scrutiny going on with that as well?
Oh, yes. The denials on H-1B renewals. And of course, we've got that awful $100,000 thing. But there was good news, a little good news in 2025.
Yeah, we're not going to be so pessimistic.
USCIS lowered filing fees by considerable amount.
Yeah, they did. I mean, for those who are filing, now this is for EB-5, right? So those who are filing sources of funds, we were at 12,000 almost you were paying filing fees. It's now reduced back to that 3,675. But I think who felt it the most were projects.
Oh gosh, 48,000 for filing, for fees, for amendments, for filing. It was crazy. But there is an asterisk. Everybody should not get too comfortable unreasonable because the historical pattern has been that USCIS will conduct a mandatory notice and comment rulemaking, and the fees will return to their increase. They have to, I suppose.
Yeah, but let's hope that maybe it doesn't increase as high as it was. 47,000 I thought was a little high. Or even for those, if you're trying to file an amendment for a project to also pay that astronomical fee, it really doesn't make sense. So hopefully they'll take, the comments seriously and really make some changes. But I think at this time, I know, especially for investors, for projects out there, it's worth your while. Take advantage right now with it so much lower.
Yeah. And in addition, there were some game-changing legal developments last year.
Well, so Mona, there's so many cases happening out here, right? And we don't even hear this as much. But, there was a landmark case that came out, Battineni versus Mayorkas.
I'm glad you said that. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, but now I'm going to have you remind us again what this was about.
It was, very, very briefly, it was a case, it was supposedly a landmark ruling because the court actually decided that USCIS cannot require the attorneys to and the investors to trace every single dollar, and that you have to really abide by a reasonableness standard. But what is the real world impact of that, Rebecca? Have you actually quoted this? I mean, this happened in 24, and the implementation was 25.
Yeah, I think a lot of clients, when they hear that, they think, well, is that really going to work? I mean, we have quoted it in our cases, but an overall impact, I mean, it's not really,
Well, USCIS haven't updated the policy manual, and that's something we're probably going to see this year.
Yeah.
And we don't know really. I mean, they don't want to approve anything right now. So
I know, and it's not a precedent case. It's a landmark case, but it's not really precedent, right?
Yeah.
So whether or not they take it and what is sufficient documentation, I just feel like right now it's on the discretion of the officer.
Right. One more landmark event which happened last year, again, we haven't really felt it, is there were CSPA changes, the changes, protection from children from aging out. There were new hope, really.
Yeah, well, there was hope. And it's just that USCIS is taking so long to process the applications. For India, China, unfortunately, they're going to hit backlog. And that's where we're going to run into trouble.
That's something that, that's our outlook for 26. But just before we end with our outlook recap of 25, I think the almost revolution is probably the big story of 25 was the gold card.
What would you say, Mona? Have we seen any interest as yet in this gold card program?
Yes, we have. We saw a lot of interest initially. We have a lot of people who called us. And then once they actually understood more things about the gold card, they lost interest. Yes. One of the big issues was the cost and the fact that it was an EB-2. But saying that, we do have people who want to try because of the speed of the gold card. And I think that is going to be its biggest attraction.
But Mona, do you really think that's the case, especially with a lot of the backlog that's happening under the EB-1 and EB-2 categories?
I don't think that they thought this through because they don't realize that EB-1 and EB-2 has a bigger backlog than anywhere else. But that's not my worry as much, Rebecca. My worry is, will it stay? I mean, it came in through an executive order. When Trump has gone, will the green card go? Is it actually going to stay there? Is somebody else going to bring another executive order? And remove it altogether? It's the unreliability or uncertainty of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is my issue.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And and we've seen that with the EB-5 program. But if I was an investor, Mona, what should I do? Should I do the EB-5 program? Should I do the gold card? What would be the better option?
Again, there are so many factors that people look at. The uncertainty of the gold card is something which would put me off. But if somebody has clean money, they're not from India or China, they want green card quickly, and they're ready to perhaps do maybe something else as well as the gold card later, then go for the gold card. Go for it. We have to see how it's gone through. I don't think anybody as yet at this time, the beginning of 2026, has actually got the gold card. So
yeah, like you said, being realistic, we don't know how this process will actually go through. Right. I am still thinking that EB-5 is still the best process. just because even if you have the money and you have clean funds, you're doing the same thing with EB-5. Right. And it's an $800,000 investment versus the million plus that you have to for the gold card. So I am still on the EB-5 team.
Yeah. Well, the other big thing, the other big story of 25 actually was the American exodus. We had record numbers of people seeking a plan B. And there were many reasons for this, weren't there? I mean, it wasn't just the political polarization.
Yeah, there's many factors. You've got the economics, the cost of living. I mean, I think a lot of Americans are feeling the healthcare cost. Insurance, yeah, that has been.
That's a big story right now, the healthcare. And there's also the lifestyle preferences, people who just were tired of the lifestyle that you have in America and they wanted a different, they believe, and I kind of agree, but they believe there's a different quality of life overseas. So, all right. So that's 2025. Let's look at 2026 outlook. We could go backwards and we could say, do we expect the trend to continue, Rebecca, of people wanting to leave America? Americans wanting to leave?
Yes. I mean, I see that just because, like you said above, with all those factors, and unfortunately, I think with the administration we're in, I think a lot of people just want to get that second passport just in case.
I read that George Clooney got his passport into France the other day.
Oh,
So,
no way.
yeah, they're not, yeah, I know. They're not coming back.
Yeah.
But George Clooney and Donald Trump don't get on. Anyway, sorry, getting distracted. 2026, what to expect? More of the same? Rebecca, possibly worse?
Yeah, if not, yeah, we could see. I mean, with our EB-5, we could see more denials, unfortunately. We'll see more, well, especially I think we'll see more RFEs and noids. That way, maybe that will pressure people to go. And I think that's what will pressure people to go into the gold card. But yeah, I do see a continued high denial rate for that.
Yeah, I mean, it is high. At one point, I believe one of the bloggers had done some calculations and said that at one of the quarters, the denial rate was as high as 70%, which is very high. I'm not sure whether that was overall or whether that was for just the standalone type of entrepreneurial cases.
I think we're also seeing, we've seen some RFEs that we're just thinking, what is USCIS even questioning?
Yeah, exactly.
Some of these are so ridiculous. And I think it's just a way of, I don't know if they're either trying to get more time for them to adjudicate these cases, or they're just trying to find a way to get people to, again, look down on the EB-5 program.
Yeah, well, they haven't abided by the timeline that they were supposed to, that's for sure. Maybe that's something that might change in 26, but I doubt it, because 26 has a big deal at the end of the year, doesn't it? The sunset of the program.
No, and we're always, I mean, Mona, I think I've joined you since 2011, and we've been hearing the sunset of the program since then. But there's going to be such a difference.
This is different. This is different. And it's different because, first of all, the program doesn't actually sunset until 2027 in September, I believe. But it is the fact that for some ridiculous, crazy reason in the statute, they said that September of 2026 is the cutoff date for anybody wanting to be grandfathered by the provisions in RIA, in the Reform and Integrity Act.
Yeah, so it's very unclear, and they haven't said anything to it. So, of course, every client is going to want to file by September 30th of this year.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Can we get it?
Yeah, but I mean, what we saw from 2019, at least I think we can say we're a bit more prepared. I think in 2019, we didn't know what to expect. At that point, the funds were going up to 900,000. People were just filing cases. We saw skeletal filings coming in. Whereas I think now we're more prepared and we can advise clients on how they should be moving forward.
Maybe, but let me ask you, I spoke with a developer yesterday who called specifically to us and say, is it worth me putting up another project? What would you say?
Yes.
Yeah. I
well,
agree.
One, the fees are lower. Get it in now. But two, I mean, look, you're going to get, for sure that we will see how I think there's going to be a rush filing again. Watch July, August come, and you'll need spaces.
We will, but I don't believe, in my opinion, and you can quote me later on in the year, said, hey, Mona, back in January, this is what you said. But in my opinion, I don't believe that this rush in 2026 will be anywhere near what we saw in 2019.
Why is that?
Well, 2026 is different from 2019. First of all, we have President Trump. But I feel there was an optimism which is not there right now. There's a pessimism in the market generally. We didn't, well, in 2019, nobody even heard of COVID.
Yeah.
That wasn't there. So we hadn't seen some of the projects which had collapsed because of COVID. We hadn't seen, all of the issues that arose because of COVID. And of course, COVID made I feel it was the catalyst for allowing people to become nomads and live overseas and get second passports.
I mean, we still talk to a lot of clients that say that the US is still their American dream. There are people out there, but at the same time, is it the only option?
No, it's not. And I think that is the biggest difference between 2019 and 2026, that people realize there's a big wide world out there, that US isn't everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I still think we'll still see a lot of rush. I think people will, if they want to be in the US, they will make sure they get in under this, because after this, it's going to increase. It will happen.
It is. Well, we know that from legislation, and it's going to increase into 1.2 million. So it is quite a lot. But Rebecca, what advice would you give for people who are thinking, yes, all right, I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to file for EB-5 this year?
I would say start now, because you need to conduct your due diligence. Like you said,
important. Yeah. Very important. Yeah.
Investors, at this point, they don't know what to invest in. Should I invest in rural? We're still hearing that TEA. What's the difference? Or is rural getting priority processing? At this point, I say conduct your due diligence. Make sure the project, is the right one. And you don't want to rush, I would say, too, with sources of funds. Again, you're going to run into that whole skeletal filings, and we don't want any issues thereafter.
And of course, we are a little biased, Rebecca, but I would say that legal representation matters now more than ever, that you need to be with a team who really understand what is happening, what is going on, familiarity with what USCIS expects, maybe willingness to litigate. I don't know, but I do know that there is no one size fits all approach.
Oh, well, litigation, I think that's going to be an entire new topic as well moving forward.
Legal fees are expensive, but a denial is more expensive.
Exactly. And I think, we've seen this over and over again, but I think, like you said, this is going to be different.
I do feel like this is different. I mean, for example, already aren't we seeing people making mistakes with partial filings, and then a lot of denials over there?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And I mean, come on, like we've seen it with loans. We're seeing it now. So it's going to make a difference, and you need to have that experience.
I know we're discussing EB-5 in this podcast, Rebecca, but in the global picture, what do you think the wild cards are for 2026?
Ooh, well, I think we're going to see a change in where people are going to.
Well, I think the next frontier is South America. Maybe, just maybe, Venezuela will be the next place that everybody goes out to. You never know.
Yeah, but what do you think? Argentina, probably?
Argentina has been a long-awaited program. They've been trying to get that up and running for quite some time. Maybe 2026 will finally see its release.
Yeah, I can't believe, Europe used to be the fascination, and especially being a U.S. citizen, it's always been the place to be. But I think South America is becoming that new destination.
Yeah, I see that Caribbean will still continue just because of the speed that you can get a second passport. But I also see, and you've seen it very much from the UK, that the big country which is dominating everything it's the Middle East, it's UAE.
Yeah. Well, Mono, we did say 2026 will be challenging, but what's your views? What do you see?
Well, I feel EB-5, and you agree, still remains viable. And I see EB-5 as being the dominant program for this year. I don't see at this point that the gold card is going to change the game. It might, unless there's another change within the gold card. But at this point, I don't think it does.
I think everyone just needs to be, like you were saying, realistic in how the program is happening and be prepared.
Right. And of course, knowledge is power.
Hmm.
I do feel that the sunset will create an urgency. If nothing else, the marketers are going to go on, and everybody's going to suddenly panic. But, investors and people coming in should be strategic. And remember, the US is not the only option and not always the best option for you. There is a big wide world out there. I think, Rebecca, though, what we can really say in closing, I think, is that immigration anywhere is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Oh, man, I couldn't have said it better.
I think 2026 will be challenging, but we'll do it.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Global Investment Voice. A huge thank you to all our listeners for tuning in and sharing this journey with us. Curious about unlocking the potential of global migration and citizenship? Make sure to visit us online at mshalaw.com and globalinvestmentvoice.com. Dive into our extensive library of podcast episodes. Stay ahead with the latest in migration news by signing up for our insider newsletter. Don't forget to connect with us on social media. Find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook to keep the conversation going. Remember, the insights shared in our podcast are for informational purposes only, so please seek tailored legal, financial, or investment advice where needed. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep investing smart and living well with Global Investment Voice. We'll see you on the next episode.